Good morning, it's Sunday, March the 4th, and welcome to Full Scottish, an hour-long discussion of Scottish politics and culture. We are here at Broadcasting Scotland headquarters in Glasgow. Snowed in, the snow is back, but we are struggling on regardless, and today we're talking about, among other topics, we're talking about the Oscars, we're talking about a new movie which is looking at the sexual harassment in the film industry, and we're looking at Brexit and International Women's Day, which is this week. So, without further ado, let's get on with the show. Hi, welcome to Full Scottish. I'm Richard Walker.
Hi, I'm Suzanne McLaughlin, and Richard and I are joined today by Aislinn Belot, who's a filmmaker and who's actually filming her movie tomorrow, The Orchard Road. So we're going to hear a little bit about that and what's happening in film, and Aislinn will be jumping in on some of the other topics as well. And we're joined by the very fabulous Sara Sheridan, author, activist, all-round top feminist, and a good top girl. So look forward to getting stuck into the stories. First up, we're going to talk about our story of the week and what jumped out of the papers to each and all of us. Aislinn, have you got a favourite story of the week?
Yeah, the snow. The snow, we don't get it much down in the south of France, so I've just been enjoying walking in it, and I mean, it's quite dangerous.
You've been enjoying this?
I've actually been enjoying it a lot,
the only person
No, well, I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed, a bottle of wine and a big box of chocolates and a
Oh,
box.
yeah.
I've actually enjoyed it as well, to be honest.
It's a great excuse. I work at home, but I took it off.
So
I'm just sitting home from the office right now.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's back to this morning. I don't think I was expected to be back this morning. And then we were driving up from Ayrshire to Glasgow this morning, and the snow came back, so that was a bit of a shock. So I don't know whether it's going to continue for next week, but certainly the thing about the snow is it was massive. People knew how bad it was going to be, and yet still some people are criticising the government for the country being crippled or ground to a halt.
I've seen some ridiculous people suggesting we should have these really expensive Canadian-style snowplows for something that happens once every decade. I mean, there is nothing. I mean, Hamza Yousaf has worked non-stop. I don't think the guy slept in about a week, and everyone knew. We knew, and I understand people feel they're really important. Some people are important, but we all knew that the best course of action was to stay home. No one's indispensable apart from our medical services and people that were trying to clear the roads. And the criticism, in my opinion, is totally unfounded.
I had a great time. I can't really complain. I keep reading all this stuff about the economy, but I had a great time. I chatted to my neighbours. I hiked over to my mother's. She made porridge. It was fantastic. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just been.
I thought it was fun.
And you'd be out in the street, and it was like Dunkirk. Everyone was all, how are you getting on? Have you got any milk? Do
you know what? I think there was a friend of mine is a medic, and he works in Stirling Hospital, and he went in to care for patients. And he was stuck there for 2 days, and eventually when he was looking to get help in, and they were all working, those that could get in were working, incredibly long hours. But when he was trying to get home, he put it on Facebook, and within minutes, a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend drove him home to Lenzie outside Glasgow, and he started to talk about community, and whereas that was great, the larger community spirit started to kick in, but what can we do to ensure more community spirits in our areas so that people do band together and don't sit home alone, elderly people? Do we do enough? It started me thinking on, are we doing enough? Do we know our neighbours? Do we go around? Are we creating community? Are we reclaiming the night in our areas? Are we turning the music up and having a party, turning it down if they need it? And so I thought that opened up a great,
Well, it was really heartening. There were so many beautiful stories that came out of the snow. There was that cul-de-sac where the neighbours had all gone out and cleared the cul-de-sac so that the ambulance could get in for a lady who needed dialysis. We're like, fabulous.
Yeah.
So I think there's been a lot of good news stories around the snow, and it's been very mesmerising, though, I mean,
also
tough for people too.
Also, all the clips on the internet and YouTube of people in skis.
Glasgow. Gardner Street. Biggest hill in Glasgow. There's a guy snowboarding
in the city centre, and it's like, okay.
The biggest hill in Glasgow is Gardner Street, one of them, and in the West End, and it's scary getting down a car. And there was a guy snowboarding, and it was excellent. It was so fun.
More YouTube clips, please, Sarah. your
Yes,
story
my
of
story of the week, I'm going to pick something that really broke yesterday, a campaign in London by a group of young activists called Legally Black, and they took over advertising boards in bus shelters all over London and put up pictures, remade pictures of films, but with black actors instead of white actors. And I just thought that was a fabulous way of being the change.
Yeah.
And it shocked you, and then you thought, why not? Why is that a shock? It's outrageous that that is a shock. And I think we need more of that kind of shock. And they've been all over the newspapers yesterday. They were in The Guardian yesterday. They've been on telly this morning, and I just think they are
Brilliant.
Fantastic. Like what a statement.
How to make a statement.
Yeah.
And what the statement is?
The statement is, why is there only ever one black actor? And actually it was quite interesting. They had an ensemble for one an ensemble shot for one poster, and they are exactly like the posters are, but it's just black actors. And they had an ensemble shot of loads of black actors and one white actor. And how weird does that look? Because we're not used to seeing it. So I just thought they were fantastic. I mean, to do that and to make that statement was just so important.
It's interesting in the kind of reaction to Black Panther. And Black Panther is a minor character in the Marvel Avengers series, and yet his film has been one of the, I think probably the highest grossing, or certainly one of the top 3 highest grossing movies, which is something that perhaps the film industry wasn't expecting. Because I mean, they have shied away from films which are driven by a mainly black cast and directed by a black director. Is that something that you think will signal some other change in the music in the movie industry?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's I think it's even when in the film Moonlight with the all cast, black cast and stuff, and best film at the Oscars. So yeah, I think it is going to provoke change. I think it's important that people take the time to, with the posters, they're trying to get people's attention, and it shouldn't be a shock anymore. It should be.
I feel like we're on a kind of cusp of things happening. With the Time's Up and this and black actors and Black Panther and this young activist, and I've got a 13-year-old teenager, and she was saying something very similar to something Richard had said. The one thing about horrific government, be it Trump in America, or the Conservative government here, and people feeling out of the loop, and is that from it comes really great drama and great music and great theatre, and it's a kind of sense of building of baby activists, and all these young people that were marching on the Hill in Washington as well. There's this young 14-year-old woman whose Twitter I've been following, and she's absolutely amazing. She's challenging right out there, and she was up shouting at senators, and she's 14, and I thought, there's hope for the world yet. These little baby young activists, young men and women coming forward and saying, no, you lot have made enough of a mess. We're here, we're waiting, we're going to take over, and I think sometimes out of the worst of times comes the activists,
No, it's really inspiring. I mean, they are our heroes.
Yeah, they are.
And our kids should be our heroes. That's the way it should be.
It's interesting that there's a gap between governments and the people, which is sort of growing wider, because people are essentially decent and do the right thing given the chance.
To do a sort of funny point, what you're saying about them, them changing, and why is it shocking to us that it's black faces rather than white actors, and it is shocking. On a lighter note, do any of you follow Man Who Has It All on Twitter?
No,
it's a comedy. It's a Twitter. We don't know whether it's a man or a woman, but it's a sort of anonymous. It's fantastic, and what the person who runs his Twitter is, he takes things, or she takes things that they've read in the mainstream media or magazines in the previous couple of weeks and changes the sex. So it's things like hubby in bed. So it's hubby in bed, or kids asleep, time for a bit of me time with you. Make sure your eyes are sparkling, get rid of those rough knees. It's sort of glossy magazine, and they change it round and say, wife asleep, kids in bed. Time to find out how you can make your thighs thinner. Hashtag me time, and sometimes things like are male politicians still relevant? And there was one last week I thought it was really funny, and it was snow woman is clearly a gender neutral term, and if people are going to be pedantic about it, we're perfectly happy for them to call them male snow women, but it takes this up. It's a really serious tone. It takes things that men have said without a second glance from men in the media or media has said about women and tops it on.
It's a really good way to check out your view.
And you're shocked.
Yeah.
It's so.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Man Who Has It All.
Alright.
Really well. But it's
Man
a
Who Has It
similar
All.
thing about turning something on its head
Yeah.
and being surprised by how shocked you are when you read it and think.
I'm going to plug those guys. They have a Twitter account
Oh,
and
do
an
they?
Instagram, so they're Legally
is it?
Black UK. I think.
Legally Black UK, I'll be
Go
following
find
that.
them. They are fantastic.
What's galore this morning? Suzanne, your story of the week.
I have a few, but there was a story in the Irish Times, and it was my girlfriend listed the reason for her abortion. So obviously leading up to Repeal the 8th, and this journalist, young man, talking about his initial misgivings but the problems that they had to face travelling from Ireland over to the UK, and the added trauma of what young women there have to go through. But also to bring into Aislinn's story about the snow, I read something as well, unrelated, talking about the young women who were having to make that horrible journey this week, who the other consequences of the snow is the fact that these women didn't get over to make these appointments that are horrific and traumatic as it is, and there's travel plans, there's money, there's hotels, B&Bs, there's appointments booked, and how important it is really that every woman goes home to vote in Ireland finally, as they did with the making the gay marriage, and everyone came down and it became this massive success, and how wonderful that changes. So
I'm really looking forward to May. I think it's going to be
I
a
think
landmark
it's gonna-
vote. It's going to be fantastic.
do you think they'll do it, Sarah?
Yeah, I do think they'll do it. I think, funny enough, the Irish grannies will do it. They did the gay rights law as well. It was the Irish grannies who came out, and it was just so surprising. All these Catholic Irish grannies who were coming out and supporting essentially their grandchildren a lot of the time.
We should do a programme on that.
We should.
And
I think we should.
We shall. My story of the week isn't the story of the week because I'm going to change the rules.
Oh,
Hey. It's
nothing
just-
like male privilege.
Sorry. It's a moment of the week. It's a thing that I did this week, which was went to see a film called The Greatest Showman, which was not something I normally would expect to enjoy, but in the general mood for plugging things, I'm going to plug The Greatest Showman because it was such an incredibly feel-good movie. I could heartily recommend it to everybody. I suppose there's some ethical issues about the characterisation of Barnum in the movie. He's the main character, and certainly some of his less pleasant characteristics were absent from the film, and we could talk about that forever, but let's just focus right now on the good things. Go see the movie. Now, in terms of a segue into our next item, it's a perfect topic, which is Aislinn, your film, which is called The Orchard Room. The film is, as far as I understand it, part of your master's degree, but
Yes.
also something that you're wanting to get out there and allow people to see. Can you tell me a bit about the concept of the film and how it came to be made, or how it came to be planned to be made? Because I think you're filming it next week.
Yeah. So we're filming it tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So busy week ahead. So I mean, the film is written by Eva Nyatug, who is part of the course as well, and she wrote an amazing script. And we have 11 scripts written up, and then 5 were selected, and one of hers was selected, which I was really happy about, because when I first read the script, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And it's very
Who selected the script? Was that you?
our tutors.
Right.
Selected
Tell
the
us
script.
what it's about.
Yeah, so the Orchard Room is about it's based on this article that was written in the Financial Times about the President Club, All Men President Club fundraising in London and Dorchester, and how the hostesses were treated over there. Like it was appalling, and it was all men, but then you had these hostesses who were treated more than just hostesses. So that's originally what it's based on as well, but she also wrote the script for female actors, because she doesn't want female actors to be on the sidelines. She wants them to be like more present, and not the men having main roles. She wants the females to have like main roles and stuff. So it's it's really about women and women empowering other women, because it's so it's about this woman called Agnes, who's 37, and she goes for a temporary job to this fundraising event, this all-men fundraising event, and she's the only older woman there, and there's all these like 18-year-old girls working there as well, and during the event, the men are just disgusting.
Really.
As they are, and
well, as they are in real life.
no, like in these kind of events, I could imagine. I think I think most women have experienced.
Of course, they all have
some sort of a harassment, and so she gets properly harassed, but instead of letting herself, get defeated, she stabs the guy in the hand, and and she takes on this other younger girl called Chloe. She's really like, whoa, this woman is amazing, and so they kind of like escape together and stuff. But it's going to be brilliant. We have an amazing cast for it, a really good crew. Me and Eva have been working a lot, so it's exciting.
Are you shooting in Glasgow?
Yeah, we're filming in Glasgow. We're filming in this jazz club called the Blue Arrow on Sauchiehall Hall Street.
Amazing.
Which we're really excited about because it's a great place. Like the atmosphere is there because the film is very atmospheric. It has to come with all the lights, and we're trying to make it a very kind of like American Psycho kind of like style. It's great. We're really excited about it.
Is it students going to be acting in it, or have you got some?
No, we've casted some professional actors from all around. Our main actress Elizabeth Caproni, who's absolutely brilliant. We're really excited to work with her, and this other person playing Mr. White, who's the person who manages the event and stuff. So he's Robert Harrison, and he's played in a few things. And recently there's this TV show called The Cruise that's going to be coming on STV3, and he's part of that and stuff with a few other friends that he's brought in. So we have a good cast. They're not students, they're professionals, which is really exciting. And we've launched a crowdfund for this film that's been doing really well because we've only sent it out for like a few days ago, and it's been doing really well. We got a donation from Kate Dickey.
Wow.
Yeah, we're really happy about that. We've been on Twitter, like we've been trying to get that going. And
what's your account?
What's your account?
Come on, get it in.
Yeah, no, she's done. I mean, it was great to get in touch with her, and then we also got Maureen Beatty. Yeah. Who?
Tell us first before you talk, Emma.
Sorry, yeah.
Tell first people that are watching this how they can contribute.
Yeah. So if you go onto our Twitter page, you'll see that we have the links for the crowdfund.
What's the name of the Twitter account?
So the Orchard Room.
So what we'll do as well, we'll make sure that on the Broadcasting Scotland Twitter and website, for those of you who are following, we'll make sure we put links to Aislinn's film and how you can contribute and how you can get on that. And we'll also make sure that we put a little note to all the Twitter accounts that we've talked about today.
Yeah,
give them a little plug.
Good plan.
Yeah.
That's a good response you've had from actresses as well.
Yeah.
People that have quite a high profile. It's hitting a note, isn't it, that this movie is part of, I guess, a general raising of consciousness about what's happening to women in all parts of society, but not least, I suppose, in the film industry itself. Where we'll get the Oscars tonight, and there's going to be more about the Me Too movement, maybe not exactly the same way in terms of wearing the black dresses as they did in the Golden Globes. I think there's some movement in that. There's a different way of bringing attention to it.
Definitely.
Sarah, do you think this is a moment where things are changing for good?
Hope so. I mean, there's a really interesting political theory called the Overton window, and I love the Overton window. I think it's fascinating. So the Overton window is the window of what is normal, and the Overton window shifts. And so change tends to happen when the Overton window has shifted, and then you get legislation that follows in the wake of it, or it can happen the other way around. So a really good example is when we had the smoking getting banned inside. Everyone was like, this is pretty draconian. And then two or 3 months later, the Overton window would shift, and you would call the police if you saw someone smoking in a pub or make a complaint or something. Your view on what was normal had changed. And I think this really is happening at the moment with a lot of these equality issues, particularly, where it's just normal is changing for a lot of people. And once you get that momentum of normal changing for enough people, then you tend to see legislative change. And there is some legislation in progress. I think we've got this fantastic sort of youth movement that's coming in. We've got a lot of experienced campaigners. I don't know if you saw the Women's March this year. There were quite a lot of older ladies out with, I've been doing this since the 60s. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen alone.
And I think there is a kind of TikTok, really time. So
is that why you think your movie has got some traction among actresses and various other. I mean, it's a it's getting to a higher profile than it might otherwise have done at different times.
Yeah. I think it's a great time to be doing this kind of film. You know, it's very ballsy, you know, to do it at the moment. So I think we're getting good response from it. I feel like people, women especially, have been taking chances by expressing what they've been through, experiences that they've been through. Everyone's talking about it. So I think it's a good time to be doing it, you know. And like you were saying, there's a TikTok, and it's kind of like happening now. So
we're going to see some of that film just now, and if our technical people are getting the equipment to work properly, we should be able to see it right now.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Caproni, and I'm playing Agnes in the new short film The Orchard Room. I was drawn to this film because I think it's really poignant right now of what's happening in the world. There's a really monumental shift in the consciousness of how women are treated, how they have been treated in the past, and it's saying enough is enough. Like the Me Too campaign, the Time's Up, there's so much awareness now, and as I said, a real kind of shift towards how women should be treated. And basically, women have just had enough. You can really help us out by sharing this, even if you can't donate. Every single little thing helps, and basically the guys behind this just want it to reach as many people as possible. It's so apt for the world right now, and as I said, if you can't afford to donate, then just please share. We're trying to reach as many people as possible, and you can be a part of this. You can be a part of this movement and this film in a way just by reaching more and more people. Let's get going.
Hiya, my name is Claire and I play Chloe in the new short film The Orchard Room. I think what initially drew me to the character of Chloe was how much she grew throughout the film. We really see her access an inner strength that she didn't necessarily know that she had. And you really see her take control and realise that she doesn't need to accept the situation she's in just because it's the norm. The film itself, I think it's just a really important message to get out there, especially today, when we've seen so much in the media to do with sexual abuse in the film industry, in any workplace for that matter. I think it's a real kind of window into the lives of women and what they go through every single day. And although very distressing and harsh at points, I think it's really empowering and hopeful, which we really need right now. Please help us out. If you click on the link below, share it. If you can donate, every little helps. Small steps make big changes, so just get out there. I think the amazing people behind this just want as many people to see it as possible. So you could be the person to make that change. Thank you.
The film takes a stark look at what happens at a famous film producer's all-male live event, but the story is told from the female's point of view this time. When I read the script for this project, I knew immediately that I wanted to be involved. In the wake of the Harvey Weinstein revelations in Hollywood, and closer to home, the President's Club scandal in London, this film is incredibly prescient and important.
Fantastic. So all please follow, have a wee look, and when will it be out? When can people go and see it, and where can they see it?
We're filming it this week coming up, but we have to give it in April, and then we're hoping to send it out to UK and international film festivals. So hopefully it'll be out soon enough and online for people to see it.
Yeah, we'll get following you and make sure that we do that. Back to the Oscars. So tonight, a few things. Obviously, there's just the movie side of it, and maybe talk a wee bit about that first, and then the underlying sort of political moments. What do you want to win?
Tough call. I went to see I, Tonya just like the other night, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was, and I've seen Shape of Water, and I've seen Three Billboards, and I've seen Lady Bird, but
Is Lady Bird good?
Yeah, Lady Bird is really good. But there's something about the fact that it's a real I, Tonya is a real story.
Yeah.
And Margot Robbie in it is excellent. So I'm aiming more towards that for now.
Richard?
I don't know. What I would like to think that Three Billboards will win something. I think it's an amazing film, and I think it's well praised, and I think its time is probably it hits the chime.
Are you
the
rooting
times.
for the Post? For Meryl Streep? Or for
Well,
Best Actress?
I don't know so much about the Post.
Does it make you sad? The golden days of journalism are gone.
Thanks for
You're
that.
no longer
Yes.
the men in white
People,
hats.
well, no, we are still the men in white hats.
You know.
And women. Sorry, men and women in white hats. People in white hats.
That's
But
true,
I
it's not
think
many
people I
women.
know
Many women are in positions of power in journalism.
in journalism, well, in terms of editors, none.
Mandy Rose?
Editors of Hollywood Magazine,
Yeah.
yes. In terms of national newspapers, no women are editors, and there's only ever been one woman editor of the Scotsman some time ago. So, in terms
A
of
lot to be done.
there's a lot to be done. There are certainly more women in the industry. There are certainly more moves to make sure that women are more represented in discussions on television and radio, etc. I think there's a lot of work to be done in that area also. But yeah, I think that the people I know that have been to see the Post do say that it's quite depressing for journalists who are working today, because you see a very, very busy newsroom packed full of people and a real buzz about it. And newsrooms today are, although still busy and still doing a great job, they are less busy, I think would be fair to say. Sarah, what do you think about your tips for the top in the Oscars?
I loved I, Tonya as well. I loved Three Billboards as well, but my heart was for Shape of Water. That was the one that I'd watch again. It's always, what would you watch again? I would definitely watch Shape of Water again. I had that fantasy kind of, I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting to get into a merman, but I totally was into the merman. And I have to say, I just thought it was fantastic. And I watched The Post, and I love the styling actually. That kind of 70s styling was quite amazing about it. But they did an amazing job. It was so American. Yeah. It was really all about America, and I just thought, I've had enough of that. So, interesting story, and I think if you're a journalist it probably was more interesting for you, but I didn't feel that emotional connection to it, just because it was so kind of contained. It was such a contained American story. So yeah, Shape of Water for me.
What do you think? For me, sorry, I'm not really. The only thing I like, Richard, I also absolutely interested. I've seen it last night. The Greatest Showman. I mean, I love Hugh Jackman anyway. You know, he's great, isn't he? What's not to like about Hugh Jackman? But the song "This Is Me," it's one of those great, inspiring sort of feminist anthems of the future. It makes, and even though that wasn't the place that it took in this movie, you sort of feel that, don't you?
Is it up for the music Oscar?
Yes, it's up for the best song, and it is
It's
just.
amazing, yeah.
It's one of those songs that you sit up straighter and you think, I can do this, I can do this. So I hope that wins. What do you think, Sarah, about the sort of political side of it tonight? Do you think we'll see more of
The white roses and the black dresses?
yeah,
and all
the
rest
Time's
of it?
Up pin
Yeah.
and the?
I kind of hope so.
I
Do you know what I
hope
mean?
so.
It keeps it in the public eye. It keeps it, it keeps it fresh for people. And I think we have to keep saying it and keep saying it, because there's a lot of stuff being said, but we're not yet at the point of enough stuff being done. And so I think we have to keep saying it and saying it and saying it until we get real action.
Yeah.
What do you think about the suggestion from mainly male quarters that there's enough, we've reached peak Me Too?
I mean, that is so laughable if you're a woman. I mean, it's only a man that would ask that question, and you're one of the best.
I didn't believe that. I don't believe that.
I think it's very notable that we all just laughed. We all thought that was
You know what? No, in my opinion.
No.
I don't think you're kind of women. It's, I think we're just pinching the surface
exactly,
as far as women are
This is
concerned.
not peak.
But men are a little bit kind of, we've done that now, bored already, like moving on. Can we go back to status quo normal and talk about men? So, enough about men. What do men think? What do you think about men?
Not about me, not about my case.
No, it's definitely not. We've not reached peak, and I don't know that we ever will. As Sarah was just saying, there are women who've been doing this since the 50s and 60s that are like, enough already. That needs to be action, not just talk. So it has to be something we talk about every single day. And even while we're sitting here, a woman will be being sexually abused, and another one will be being raped, and someone will be harassed right now, somewhere, and not just somewhere, everywhere. So no. We've not reached.
We are not done.
It's funny how there are just things which it seems movements which it's just their time, and this is just seems to me a time where, and that opens the door for hopefully real change. It's the International Women's Day on the 8th this week. What do you hope that International Women's Day achieves this year, Sarah?
I suppose it's just focus. Johnny, it's just focus. These days are great for providing a focus, for building community, for bringing on board. I mean, men are in an invidious position here. You know, it's really difficult for men. It's really particularly difficult for white men.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work done there to be done there to bring on those men as allies, and for those men to feel comfortable being allies. And so I think, in fact, International Women's Day, I'd like to see a lot of men out at International Women's Day this year. That's what I'd really like to see with us.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be confrontational in that way. We should be doing this together. You know, we definitely should be doing this together. I'll be in my red T-shirt, because we're all wearing red this year for International Women's Day, and I will be online and supporting it that way. And I just think it's, you know, when you think of what International Women's Day was like 10 years ago, it has grown into something that is totally mainstream. It was something that was hardly talked about in the country. Nobody did anything. It was something that maybe happened in a few European countries or happened in America. And it's ours now. We can own it now.
I think for me, I would like to see more inclusivity. So not just women, but women of colour, particularly like misogyny is something that just needs stamped out for, you know, of society in every single way. So black women, disabled women, LGBT community, it's all women and men as allies.
I think, you know, the day that we can stop calling it feminism and start calling it equality is the day that we can.
Then we'll have reached peak.
That's peak. When we're doing that, that's peak.
Amongst, I guess, student population now, I mean, where does feminism sit now? Because it seemed to me at one stage there was a kind of confusion around what that was, and now there seems to be a whole new generation embracing those.
I think a lot of people can relate to this, because, you know, like a lot of 18-year-old 20s, you know, we go for jobs and stuff, and you know, you always hear story, and it's become normal that people don't even like say it anymore, but it's like, oh yeah, this happened, and it's like normal, and it's like, no, it's not normal. And I think that with all these actresses who have come forward, younger women can like look as them as like examples, you know, and start realizing, okay, this is not normal. What happened to me? Like, this needs to stop, kind of thing. So I think it's the generations. It's like they mix properly, you know, like we're able to look at older women and then relate to it. And
I suppose some of these women in Hollywood, you would have imagined, you would have thought they were relatively powerful, but actually they seem not to have been. So
it's incredibly brave. Like what's happened is really brave. I can't Me Too. I've not Me Too'd. I have Me Too's, but I'm not talking about them. And the idea of coming out and talking about some stuff that's that personal, I just have.
That's why
that
you're
is
not talking about it,
breathtaking.
because it's too personal.
It's too personal, and I can't. I mean, I have talked about it, and I've taught my husband knows things that have happened, and I've had various bits of therapy about stuff. But you know, for everyone to know that, you know, I find it's too difficult for me.
I found for me it was enough to just say Me Too, but
I didn't know
the details. And but I think what is really dangerous as well is there was some men, and not coming from a nasty place, but I was talking to men who were genuinely shocked when they talked about this. They seen it in the paper, the telly, whatever. They turn around, and then they realised their wives, their sisters, their daughters, their friends, and I think they thought it was this sort of, you know, this odd woman has been, you know, touched on a street by a stranger, and all of a sudden, you know, we had conversations like that, and I said, you know, every single woman that we know, that I know, every single woman that I know has been, you know, from the smallest of, you know, the unwelcome hand in your ass in a bar to, you know, the most vicious of crimes. But I don't know a single woman that it hasn't happened. None. And I think that's came as quite a shock to decent men who are the majority, let's face it, who don't want to think that their friends, their colleagues, the men they know are these people, but they clearly are, because it's not one bad man that's going around the world.
He's really busy.
Woman.
He's been really busy, that one guy.
You know.
I think one of the other things that shocked me about some of the more recent revelations, the Me Too one absolutely, but also equal pay, because it's staggering how prevalent different pay scales are for men and for women still after legislation and everything. There still seems to be an awful long way for women to go in all sorts of fields.
In my industry, I've got to say, if you're male, you're more likely to get reviews. You're more likely to be nominated for prizes. You're more likely to win prizes. You know, if you're writing, you're writing books. I have to have a wee go at you. You have 2 male reviewers reviewing 4 books, which are all by men in the Herald today. No, probably not every week, but it's that times a million.
Yeah.
So it's just.
And it's exhausting, fighting it all the time. It's the emotional labour of constantly challenge. And if you do constantly challenge, I mean, I make a joke. My headline on my Twitter is, shouty feminist bitch, but I have been called that. That's why I used it, and because you want to challenge it all the time because you want things to change, but you become this harpy. I'm
head bitch. Bitch on my Twitter account, I am head bitch. And I think that bitches unite. I think that the needle is moving on those words. We are reclaiming those words, just like the gay movement did in the 70s.
Yeah.
Let's have it. I am a bitch, and all the good stuff that goes with that. So
because if you go, you do it, and you become. Because the thing is, there is everything to complain about. There is everything from the women in television to reviews of books that I haven't even thought about, to those women in Ireland that can't get across on the boat, to young filmmakers, to even just women going home, the amount of the domestic abuse. I mean, most women that are killed that is not natural causes, it's their husband or their boyfriend. Women are, and I've seen a sort of funny, not funny joke online, and it made me a sort of wry smile and a grimace, and it was like, we'd really like to stop shouting at all you decent men out there, but it's really hard when you all keep killing us. And there's the amount of women who are killed by their men and partners, and it's a sort of wry smile, but I would like to see men stepping up to the plate, and I would like to see more at the Oscars. I would like to see men standing up.
It's what happened with the suffragette movement. When the men came on board, it happened. That's the point. That's the tipping point. We need you.
Okay.
We need you.
What are the other things that you think International Women's Day could achieve in terms of just raising the profile of, it's not raising the profile is a silly phrase because clearly it's half the population, but I think there are, for instance, statues.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a bugbear for me, because I write books always about women, because I find these amazing stories in the archive. Only 0.5% of our archive material are written histories about women. 52% of the population. And I find a woman in the archive and I end up writing a book every time. And so, because they're just so amazing. And that there would be statues to these women if they were men.
Yeah.
When you look at what they've actually achieved. So in Edinburgh, where I live, there are more statues to animals than there are to women. In Glasgow, even with the new Mary Barber statue that's going up on International Women's Day this year, hurrah for Mary Barber.
Which is a great thing.
But there were 5 in the whole of Glasgow, even including that Mary Barber statue. How many amazing women from Glasgow are not being memorialised or not being remembered? And what does that say to young women today? If you live in a world where your achievements are not recognised, the history is written by the other gender, then it's very unempowering. And actually, Rebecca Solnit, who's an amazing feminist writer, American feminist writer, wrote an article last year where she renamed all the stops on the New York Metro after women, because all the stops on the New York Metro are named after men. And there was general outrage, but you got to be that change. And so I have a wee Scottish project that I'm working on where I'm going to be Rebecca Solniting bits of Scotland, I think, for next year's International Women's Day.
Well, we'll make sure you definitely come back on
I'll be
when
in.
you can and talk
Be
more
at the
about
door.
it. That sounds absolutely incredibly interesting. It really does. It sounds amazing. I think for International Women's Day, I would like one of the first tweets when I put something like my picture in red on Twitter. I'd like one of the first tweets I receive not to be when's International Man's Day, because every year there's some, and this feminist world over a collective groan. Every other day. International Men's Day, but it's always one of the first. It's always one of the first, no matter what you do, and you just think. Grown. So that would be my point.
Actually, you're going to be expecting spending International Women's Day filming.
Yeah, no, I am.
So are you getting any other activities planned or anything else you're going to do to mark the
I have a lot to do, because I'm working on 3 films.
3 films?
Yeah.
What are the other 2?
Part of the Masters is also, but I'll be cinematographer on one, so I'll be holding the camera. I remember telling my flatmate this, I mean, he's from China, so I don't know if it's a different culture, you know. But when I told him that I was going to be filming, he was like, "Wait, you're going to be holding a camera? That's a man's job." And I was like, "Excuse me."
Came up again.
And I was like, "No." Like, he's like, "Who put you up to this?" I'm like, "I want to do it." Like,
oh my god!
he didn't mean it in a mean way. I think.
But it's at least he's challenging himself and he's asking questions.
Yeah.
It's not, if it's your flatmate and a friend, he's not coming from a bad
Exactly,
place.
yeah.
But it does come, and I think that's the problem is, you know, engage, ask women what you know, and some men think, and I've heard during this whole time at Moon, we don't know what to say, we don't know how to talk to women, you can't even chat them up anymore, you can't go out. And it's like, if you've got a problem, ask.
Yeah, exactly. And I explained to him that this is that he shouldn't say this in the sense that, you know, at this time there's a lot of change going on, and I mean, women are well able to be cinematographers on Instagram. There's this thing called Women Directors Friday or something, and I've seen so many women posting pictures of them filming and directing, and it's like, I didn't even know that they were doing it, and it's like now everyone's really sharing their experience in film, and it's brilliant. I think.
I suppose when you have people from different cultures all collaborating on some projects, then you'll find different approaches and different opinions, but it's a good idea. Clearly, I mean, it's a great opportunity to have those discussions and maybe change minds. I don't know whether your chap emerged from the discussion.
Yeah, he was really surprised. Yeah, but which, you know, like I said, I knew he wasn't mean, so I had a chat with him, you know, and he was like, oh, I didn't know this. It's really interesting and stuff, and yeah. I mean, it's important to explain it, not take it, you know, personally.
It's about kids as well, isn't it? I mean, it's okay for girls to fly planes and run countries and all that, and it's okay for boys to want to be fashion designers. I mean, we've really been very specific about gender for far too long. And we need to broaden it out and let just people be people and have their talents where their talents are.
My sister-in-law bought me, she's American, and she sent me, I really like Cinnabons, cakes, I'm a fan of a cake. And she bought me this fabulous badge, and it says cinnamon rolls, not gender rolls. And I absolutely love it. And but this is it is still to this day challenging it, and we still have Kirsty Strickland quite recently put on again pictures. We still have Asda. You know, I'm a little princess pajamas, and Tesco, not to pick out Asda, Tesco Sainsbury's, but it's, you know, it's ubiquitous. You know, and I'm a superhero. I'm a space. It has to change, and I think we have to get. I think we need to get feminist education in schools as well. You know, the Thai campaign has been wonderfully, really effective in changing a lot of the views in Scottish schools. And I suppose I feel a little bit jealous, a little bit that we haven't, the feminists, we haven't been able to do that. You know, we should have been in schools.
In terms of going into schools, Scottish schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
But thank you. The other thing for Women's Day, Richard, perhaps the National could become a red top for the day, for International Women's Day.
It's an idea.
I'll
pass that one on to the person who is editing that show that day.
It's going to be an interesting week anyway.
It will absolutely be an interesting week. I guess no political programme would be complete without raising the prospect of Brexit. We've seen a number of things happening this week, the Brexit bill, the continuation bill, etc., etc. I'm interested in you're from France, or
my mum is Irish.
Your mum's Irish. And have you lived in France, or?
Yeah. Born there, grew up there. It's my first year away.
Your passport is Irish. You're a very lucky person.
Very beautiful
many people
passport.
want one of those things. Yes, absolutely. How are you feeling personally about the political culture in this country? And by this country, I mean the UK, not just Scotland. Do you think there's been a change that makes you feel less comfortable here?
It's hard to say for me because it's my first time living in the UK. I've only been here since September. Right. I mean, I know that Scotland wants to be to stay in Europe and stuff, and I think they'd be a great country, and if they were independent, you know, if Scotland was independent, I think they'd be great. And I remember in September I was walking in George Square, and there was this all these people with the Scottish flag, and they were like marching or something. I was like, oh, what's going on? They were like, yeah, we do this every month, because we really want to be independent, you know. So I think I'm for them to be independent. But because I haven't lived enough in the UK to kind of have that feeling. Yeah, exactly. I have nothing to compare with, and I'm Irish, so I'm good.
I mean, obviously, there's real implications of the what's happening here for Ireland with
With the
Brexit,
border.
with the border, and a hard fought, hard won peace, potentially crumbling.
Well, it seems to be, I think the depressing thing is for many people that want to leave, that's a price worth paying, Sarah. It's a depressing statistic that
I'm
they
so
ask
depressed.
most
I'm so
of
worried.
them.
I mean, there are lots of things that are a huge worry for me. I am the granddaughter and great-granddaughter of refugees on both sides of my family. And so the rise in hate crime, like 2016 to 2017, hate crime in England was up 29%. I'm going to repeat, 29%, not in Scotland.
No.
I travel all over the country. I spend a good deal of time in London, and also in the north of England, and there was a slight change in atmosphere, and you can feel it, and that is a real worry for me, because that is it's opened up a kind of unleashed a kind of nasty right-wing racist kind of point of view, which I think was probably there but was a bit more under wraps. It wasn't acceptable, and it's becoming, I think, a little bit more acceptable to say this kind of stuff. And so, as somebody whose generations of my family have had to leave countries because they were going to be killed, otherwise, that is really, really worrying. That's something that I feel quite threatened by. And interestingly, my husband, who's incredibly white, incredibly Scottish, feels very confident that whatever happens will somehow be okay. Yeah. I don't have that confidence, having that, coming from that background. My generation would be the first generation that nobody in our generation would have had to leave anywhere potentially up till now. And I'm very heartened by, there's a crowdfunder up at the moment for Joe Mon, who's a QC in London, who is challenging Britain's right to remove the EU citizenship from British nationals. In other words, does the British government have the right to say, well, we're just taking away your EU citizenship? And so I'm going to be following that case really, really closely. We took it initially to the Netherlands, and the Netherlands said this isn't something that we can, the Dutch court couldn't decide it on their own. And so it's now going to the EU court, and that's going to be very, very interesting to see how that one pans out. My first act, my daughter was born in Ireland, so my first act after Brexit was to get her an Irish passport, which she's entitled to. And that, I have to say, one of the worst things for me is we have these letters that came from my great-great-grandparents' families, and it's, oh, we'll be fine, you've left, there's nothing wrong, and then it descends into, we just want to get the kids out. And so getting Molly that passport was really important for me. I knew she could still travel, and she would still be able to go. So now I've got to figure out what we're going to do if it goes wrong, of course. But I mean, that's way, way, way down the line.
I think you're absolutely right. I had a friend many years ago, our family were French. We've sort of lost touch sadly, but as a very young woman, and she was born in Scotland, but our family were French, and her family on her mother's side were Jewish, and we talked about this. Obviously, there wasn't many years ago before Brexit, but we talked about things, and she was still very, very careful about who she told she was Jewish. There was still this underlying fear, even living in this country, and it's something that if you come from a position of privilege, you're saying you just cannot understand that fear for your children, or the recognition of what's gone before and what it could change. And you were talking about something really interesting a little bit earlier, Sarah, about how the norm changes and sort of the window moves. And there was a time not so long ago where it was very much it was a bad thing to be a racist. It was a bad thing to be a hate crime. And it seems as if, with the advent of the Brexit vote, that all of a sudden it's okay to be racist.
Well, so you're standing up for yourself, you're standing up for your culture, and the other culture is attacking you, and that's very much the Lex. I mean, I've been watching some of these sort of ultra-right accounts on social media just to watch it, just to try and understand it, and to try and also figure out what does home mean.
Yeah.
Because home, I've realised, means something very different from my husband, who's incredibly secure, to me. So where is your home, and why is it your home? And if you had to choose a new home, where would you choose? So these are all really interesting questions around what's going on. I hope we don't have to choose a new home. I hope we can, we either get to somehow stay with some kind of continuing deal within the EU, whether that's an EFTA deal or whatever. But it's not looking good. I mean, it really isn't looking good in terms of what, the rhetoric that's coming out from May's cabinet.
Aislinn, your home's France.
Yes.
Is that still home to you?
Yeah, I mean, it will always be the place where I grew up, and it's a beautiful part, because I'm from the south, Nice, which is
lovely.
Yeah, really nice, really beautiful. But I'm not. I've detached from it. Like, I wouldn't mind living anywhere else.
How did you come to be studying? You studied at the University of the West of Scotland.
Yes.
How did you come to be studying there?
So my brother studied in Stirling for 4 years, you know, and I came to Scotland to see him when he graduated, and there was something, I don't know, there was something that I didn't feel the same when I went to England, but when I came to Scotland, in terms of seeing myself living there. When I like London. I have my brother lives, my younger brother lives there. It's good, but when I would go, I didn't get that feeling that I could see myself there. When I came to Glasgow, I was like, like people are so friendly here, and there's just that feel that I was like, okay, I could live here. I would feel safe and home kind of thing.
There were no restrictions on you and where you on coming here. There were no technical problems about getting here.
No. Actually, everything went very smoothly, yeah.
I'm guessing that wouldn't be the same under Brexit because it would be much more complicated.
Yeah. I think I came at the right time, I'm guessing. So I'm hoping it stays that way, you know, for everyone. Anyways, I think.
Right now, I suppose we're kind of caught up in more legal wrangles. Don't know whether you followed the presiding officers.
The continuity bill.
Yes, oh my goodness, that was a little.
I think Ruth Davison's now come out and she is backing. Ruth Davison, who sadly is my MSP, has come out and has backed a legal challenge.
Oh, she's backed a legal challenge.
She's backed a legal challenge to the continuity bill. Is it legal? So I think that happened either yesterday or today. I saw it.
So she's supporting the Lord Advocate's view.
To challenge it. She wants to challenge it. She wants to challenge it.
I guess it's. I think one of the dangers with Brexit is that people are very focused on these issues as they should be, but it's sometimes they get. It's not minutiae is the wrong word, but the details are very important. But the broader picture sometimes gets a bit forgotten about. I think, and I think there's no such thing as in my view anyway, there's no such thing as a good and acceptable Brexit. You can minimise it, you can minimise the dangers, and I think the Scottish Government is quite right to try and minimise the danger.
Thank goodness somebody did something. Yeah. You know, we've all been sitting there watching Labour down in Westminster thinking, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, where is the fight? And this feeling that, you know, they're just about to do it, or they've got something up their sleeve, and time is wearing on, and there's nothing coming out of those sleeves. So, I mean, when I saw what they were doing, I just thought, oh, thank goodness. And the Welsh devolved government is doing exactly the same thing. The Irish devolved government, of course, is not actually sitting at the moment, so can't do anything or won't be doing anything. But yeah, I just feel this sense of frustration that there hasn't been a proper opposition to this at Westminster, other than the SNP MPs, who are of course too small a group. And some of the speeches that have come out of Westminster are just amazing. I mean, David Steele gave a very good speech in the Lords about, you know, what was happening and how he felt what was happening to the devolved governments was extremely unfair. He gave that speech about 10 days ago, and again you just thought, at last somebody is saying this.
You know, we talked during the week last weekend. You know, it seems to me, and talking to some friends down south, very left-wingers who, you know, and they're talking about the possibility, they're a bit frightened of it, that there could be an England exit, you know, and the rest of us are UK, as opposed to what we thought might happen in pre-referendum in Scotland, because it certainly seems as if there's, you know, the devolved governments, and is it moving that way? Does anybody think that's, you know?
I sometimes wonder what would be the trigger for people to get angry about Brexit, because they seem to be listening to it. They see the developments. The developments are sometimes confusing, and sometimes the relevance of them is not always apparent immediately. So I sometimes wonder whether people will eventually wake up to what's going on. I thought it is hard. I thought the parliaments, the battle of the parliaments, if you like to describe it as such, would be the thing that would trigger that, because people would say, I
think it's
like
when it hits you. I mean, that's what I heard a really great speech by Robin McAlpine a few weeks ago, where he was talking, it's when it hits you. Well, it's when your Ryanair flight is cancelled and you know, you can't go on holiday for cheap anymore. It's when, you know, you can't get this thing that you were that comes from Italy, and they can't get it into the country, and that's when it really begins to kind of hit home.
This as well, there's this almost this, and we're all guilty of it, that people don't really want to take medicine until they're ill. You know, so, and at the moment, okay, there's all this talk, and for the average Joe on the street, if you want, you know, that's not that politically engaged, perhaps, you know, and it hasn't happened yet. It's a very esoteric, out there kind of. It's something politicians are talking about. There's no pain yet,
and they almost feel like it's something that's already happened. I've heard several people say, "Oh, Brexit isn't affecting me," and you're like, "Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
None of it started yet." So keep your eye on that. Keep your eye on that screen. So yeah, I think it's coming. I think there is a change, and I have several friends who obviously voted to remain and are now saying, "Oh well, maybe we have to go through with this." And I feel so disappointed, but I am an activist. Like I get angry easy, and I won't.
Do you have misgivings? I know you're sort of supporters of Scottish independence or independence of any country, and being able to hold government to account. Is there a danger though of challenging referendums? It makes me a little bit twitchy. Yeah. I'll be honest, it really does. Well,
I'm pro referendums. I'm not pro referendums, but I'm pro people campaigning honestly.
Yeah.
And I feel like I feel like we almost need some legislation to stop people just saying anything.
Yeah.
You don't want to call it lying, but I think Boris Johnson was at the very least mistaken in many of the things
I think
that
you're
he
very
said.
charitable there.
There's no need not to have manners. He's wrong there.
Yeah.
That was a wrong thing to happen. And in our public life, people have to be held accountable and should be held accountable. And I think there has to be something put in place where you can't just stand up and scream your head off
and the same in our media. Richard and I have many talks about this. The punishment to the media if they knowingly tell lies, has to be so commensurate that it's not worth it. For example, there's some Daily Mail things that I read, and you need to find out it's just nonsense. But clearly, it's still worth it to them to print it and then pay the fine or deal with it. It has to be commensurate with the crime. It has to be something that will make editors stop and go, I'm not doing that.
And that seems to me to be a good place to wrap up today's program. Well, we're venturing into difficult territory. I'd like to thank very much our guests for today. We are going to end now with some music from a group called the Tweeds. This clip is from a Broadcasting Scotland programme called Here and Now, which started a couple of weeks back. It broadcasts every week, focusing on the best of Scottish music. The Tweeds, thank you very much for watching.
We'll see you next week.
Same place. Next week. Thank you.
She's the one the ladies fear. Run for cover when she gets near. She's dissing you when you can't see. Well, that's the kind of bitch she's gonna be. And that friendly smile, no, it won't mean jack, 'cause she brought the knife for sticking in your back. Sticking in your back. Sticking in your back. She must be damaged to be this way. Well, she's got issues, or so they say. There ain't no good in being a hater, 'cause she'll get what's coming sooner or later. And that friendly smile, no, it won't mean jack, 'cause she brought the knife to sticking in your back.